Yes, thank God, so people know what's happening. Okay, here we are, Parshas Vayigash. It's been quite a week. Some very sad news, very happy news last night, and all kinds of things are happening, changing. I don't know. I think what we're going to speak about today is going to give us some ways of thinking about how to view, our personal lives and also what's happening as a community. I want to do this again. Anybody who's not yet on the email list for this year, this is the email, tanyahammer@gmail. You will get the notes, the handouts. You will get updates when there is and is not a class.
Notes today.
The notes are on your phone.
No, I just before I came, I looked, and she sent a thing with pictures, and she sent that letter.
Try again. Okay, here we go. What's not opening? Okay, here we go. So, what we are going to be speaking about today is a whole story about Yehuda and Yosef and Yaakov and Binyamin, and what the theme is, the goal of today's class is to really make this personal to how, to us and our situation individually and as a nation in Golus. This whole story is just, it's instructions, it's insights, it's masa of a simon labanim. Everything that happened to our ancestors happens to us. How do we handle this? What are the pitfalls? What are the traps? What are the ways to make sure we successfully negotiate these situations that seem to not make any sense to us? Like, this situation made no sense to the brothers until it all made a lot of sense. So let's go back and remember two important themes that we established in the past few weeks. Number one, Binyamin. Remember who Binyamin is? Because this whole parsha is about Binyamin, this whole story. The focus is Binyamin. What was Binyamin's story? Remember that? She was pregnant with him when Rachel was pregnant with Binyamin when she stole the trophem. Remember that? And why did she steal the trophem? Who remembers what the trophem were? And what was she trying to do? And what was the message? The fact that Yaakov said nobody here would take your trophem. It's out of the question. And anybody who would take your trophem, has no future. They're going to die. What were the trophem? Remember? A crystal ball. Some type of, we talked about being soft. It means some type of mechanism, whatever it might have been, we don't exactly know, some type of mechanism by which you could see the future, and that by knowing the future of what will unfold, you basically become a fatalist. But being a fatalist has its benefits, because what you do is you say, oh, okay, this is what's going to happen. I'll just be ready for it. I'll do whatever I can. And you slack off. Remember, Trophem was from the Shoresh Rifyon. Like, you slack off. You don't take active, you don't engage actively to determine how things will be, because it's going to be like that anyway. That was Binyamin. That is so not Jewish. Okay? And Yaakov says, this is poison to us. In fact, even the fact that Rachel dealt with it was toxic for her, and she died. Yaakov said, whoever thinks that they can predict and arrange the future and is a victim of the future doesn't really have a future. So they're going to die. And Rachel dies, and she names her child Ben Oni. Yaakov immediately changes his name to Binyamin. Say, no, the Jewish people represent the extreme opposite. What Rachel was trying to do, get those trophem away from her father, away from the nations of the world, away from everybody, to break that mindset. That mindset was broken in the life of Binyamin, as we will see. The life of Binyamin says a different message. The message that is very important to Rachel's children. It's also Yosef's message. You are not fatalist. Don't think you're going to be secure because you could predict your future, so you'll just arrange things in order to, and then you could slack off and stop worrying and stop, being engaged. It's not how it works. So then comes Paro's dreams, right? And Paro hears from his wise men, there are going to be 6 good years, and then there's going to be, 7 good years. So you're gonna conquer 7 cities. You're gonna lose 7 cities. You're gonna have 7 daughters. You're gonna lose 7 daughters. And then Yosef comes and says, you're gonna have 7 bad years, 7 good years. What's the difference? 7 good years, 7 bad years. Sounds the same. as them. But then Yosef explains to Paro, by using the name Elokim, he says to Paro, what's happening here is, okay, you are getting information that there's going to be 7 really good years, and then there's going to be 7 bad years. But we are not fatalists. It doesn't mean anything. You're getting information, so you decide how you're going to handle it. There's no fate. That's already, part of this information. You could actually turn this into the greatest thing that ever happened for Egypt and make a lot of money, become the greatest, most powerful empire on earth, which is exactly what Paro did. Now, that is fitting very well into, what we spoke about last week, which is the story of the Greeks and the Jews. Remember, we said that before the whole era of Nevuah and Nisim, that was compared to watching a show, but there's no curtain between the front of the stage and the back of the stage. Remember that? And you see everything that's going on, so you see exactly how all the stagehands, in this case Hashem, is putting everything into place so that we, the people, can, go through, take the necessary steps. So Hashem says, fight this war, don't fight this war. There's open miracles, I'll tell you what to do, I'll do it for you, I'll make it, all that. The difference between that kufa of Jewish history, which ends pretty much before Hanukkah starts the long kufa that we're in, is the curtain drops. Remember that? There's a curtain, but nothing's changed. There's still all that stuff going on behind the stage. Nothing has changed. So what's the challenge of the Gullus? To remember that it's all still going on behind the scenes. Now, Hashem said, that's the whole miracle of Hanukkah. Hashem did an open miracle, made the light burn for 8 days because we needed it. Because that's right. So here we're in front of the stage lighting the menorah and we don't have oil. So Hashem behind the stage makes the oil burn for 8 days. It was an open miracle, like from the first kufa when there was no curtain. The only difference is there is a curtain. So it was an open miracle in a private place in the Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't for the world to see, for the entire audience. It was just for the Jewish people to see. The people that know that they're still behind the stage and nothing's changed. Our job is slowly but surely to live our lives through the Gullus with a complete emunah that everything behind the stage is still very much in play until one day we raise the curtain and everybody sees that everything that ever happened had a whole backstory. And the reason that we didn't understand what was happening is because we forgot that there was a whole backstory going on, and there was Hashem behind the scenes, and there was a destiny unfolding, and we just didn't see that. So all we really saw was what we saw in front of the curtain. And that's like the Truffim. This is the facts. This is the information. We better, situate ourselves to, survive or do our best we can, and think that everything is in my responsibility to arrange everything. The whole entire story of Yosef and the brothers is the story of the curtain, okay? There's no real curtain between Yosef and the brothers, but there might as well have been because they couldn't tell that there was Yosef they were looking at, and therefore they were completely misinterpreting every single thing that was happening. It was everything that, they're like, first they took the facts on the ground and then they tried to come up with explanations, how to handle it. Completely not taking into consideration that there is a whole other story playing out here, and that this is Yosef, and everything that's happening to them actually makes a lot of sense if they understood the big picture. But it's as if that curtain was dropped and they just couldn't see. Now, at some point, that curtain is raised, and they see it's Yosef, and then all their confusion just vanishes in an instant. Correct? That's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to understand a lot of different things here, how we respond to situations that confuse us and that don't make sense and that are oppressive and unfair and unjust, like the brothers thought, because we don't understand that this is big part of a much bigger story, and we don't see the 99% of it, and we think that everything is, the only thing that's there is what we're seeing.
Can I just mention something, because my husband said something about this, about them realizing that it's Yosef, and I just wanted to know if you have any more information about it. He said that he showed him the Brit Milah.
Okay, we'll get at the end. Now, here's how we're going to start. Bereshis 44, that's our parsha, okay? So let's first analyze the position of Yehuda, who's representing the brothers, before, when their curtain is down and they don't have any clue of what's going on. So here's the reaction. Vayomer Yehuda, and we're going to compare this to another prayer. Not by Yehuda, but by someone else. Vayomer Yehuda, ma nomar ladoni, ma nidaber, ma nitztadak, Helokim matzah es avon avadecha, hinenu avadim ladoni, gam anachnu, gam asher nimtza agvia biyado. So first of all, Yehuda says, what can we say? How can we plead? How can we prove our innocence? Hashem has uncovered the crime of your servants. Now look in Rashi. We know that we have done no wrong, but this has been brought upon us by Hashem. We have to accept it. This is Hashem. Oh, there's a behind the scenes. Hashem is behind this. It's, tzaddik v'ralo. We don't know what's going on here, but, it's obviously from Hashem. It sounds very good, right? The problem is that he's blaming it all on Hashem, doing tzaddik v'ralo, when it's completely his fault. Correct? So he says, Hashem has uncovered the crime of your servants. Here we are then, slaves of my Lord. The rest of us, along with the one whose possession the goblet has been found, we're all going to be your slaves. Rashi again, we know that we did no wrong. This has been brought about by Hashem, blessed be He, okay? Hashem has found an opportunity to collect the debt. Somehow we sinned to Hashem. I don't know, we didn't do anything wrong to you. This is Hashem behind the scenes is causing us to be in this situation, and we have to accept it. Sounds very good, like he's taking the whole behind the scenes into consideration. But being that this is all Hashem's doing this, with no clue that this is very much part of an old story of Yehuda, the brother, putting his own interests in front of his father's and his own agenda in front of his the betterment of the family or the family's agenda, he doesn't connect the two. So he's saying, Hashem, okay, we're accepting what Hashem has done to us. And then he says, Yosef here is choreographing the whole thing. So Yosef says, no, Chalila li, Masos, I will never do. God, it's far from me. Chalila is always like, it's wrong morally. It's wrong in God's eyes. Chalila li, Masosos. I would never put you all in jail. I'm a just person. Ha'ish asher nimtza hagavia biyado, hu yelievet. Only the person who we found the cup in his sack, he's going to be my servant. You're going to go back to your father. I am a just and honest person. I am not, this is not some type of, you're not in the hands of some irrational, corrupt leader who's just doing whatever he wants. God forbid. So now, Vayigash, love Yehuda Vayomer. Listen to the words here because we're going to compare it. Be Adoni, please my master. Yedaber na avdecha davar be'oznei Adoni. Let me please say something to you personally. I want to talk to you directly. And don't be angry at me. Ki kamocha kapara, you're just like Paro. Right? So he's flattering him and he's saying, don't be angry that I'm going to say this to you. Now, if he's preceding his words with, don't be angry, it means he's about to say something which is basically an attack on Yosef. All right? He's attacking Yosef. He says, so I'm skipping, we skip some pas, so we're going to skip Sukkim now because this is the gist of it. He says, we came down here, I didn't print it, but you can look at it. We came down here and we asked for food and you asked who we are and you asked how many brothers are we and we told you we're all here, and the one brother is gone and we have this other last brother and the father loves this brother very much and you said you needed to see him and you said we shouldn't come back till we see him and my father didn't want to let him go because he's so precious to him, and then we did let him go and we promised that nothing bad will come to him, and now Va'ata kaboi el avdecha avi, and now if I return to your servant my father, v'hanar einenu itanu, and the boy is not with us, v'nafsho kshur b'nafsho, and their souls are bound up together, they're like one life. Okay, and he says, then my father is not going to be able to survive. Okay, v'haya kiroso ki ein hanar, he's going to see the boy's not here, he's going to die, v'meis, v'horidu es sevas avdecha avinu b'yagon. This is what he's saying. If we come back and Binyamin is not with us, basically we, your servants, will have caused our father to go down to the grave in grief. You are putting us in a position to kill our father, is what he's saying to Yosef. You are causing us to kill our father, to make him go down to the grave in grief. It's you're doing this. That's how he sees it. Correct? Right? He's ki avdecha. Then he appeals to his justice and compassion. Ki avdecha, your servant, meaning himself. Arav es hanar me'im avi lemar. I pledged my life for my brother, from my father, okay, for this boy, saying, Im lo avienu elecha v'chatasi lo avi kolim. If I don't bring him back, I will have sinned to you all of my life. Va'ata, so now, yeshev na avdecha tachas hanar, eved ladoni, let me please sit instead of the boy here with you, and I'll be your servant forever. Va'nar yal im echav, the brother is going to go, the boy should go back with his fathers. Ki, now, right, he's shifted now. Ki eich ele el avi, he's asking for mercy. Eich ele el avi, v'hanar, how am I going to go back to my father without this boy? How am I going to see the pain, the suffering, the ra that will overtake my father? So he's appealing now to suffering. So he's saying to him, one thing we know for sure here, okay? Yaakov is an innocent person. Okay, second of all, we know we're all innocent, right? We know we're innocent. You only found, and you yourself just said, oh, I'm only going to punish the one who stole the cup. So we're all innocent, and my father's innocent. And you know what you're doing now? You're causing all of us innocent people not only to suffer, but to cause more suffering on an innocent person. You are causing innocent people to suffer for the case of one person who sinned against you. How unjust is that? You are causing my father to suffer. You're causing all of us to kill him. And I'm asking you I will take the suffering of my brother upon myself, okay, so as not to cause suffering to other innocent people. You hear this complaint? Tzaddik v'ralo. How could you? All right? That's the complaint. Huh?
I said they should have thought of that with Yosef.
Exactly. They should have thought of that when their own agenda was not in question. Now, look at this. What sounds familiar here? This is Avraham. Sodom and Avraham. Vayigash Avram vayomer, ha'af tispet tzaddik in Russia? Are you also going to wipe out a tzaddik with the Rishayim? The innocent are going to suffer with the guilty? What's that? Maybe there's 50 people. Wouldn't you save a few guilty people for a majority of innocent people? Chalilu l'cha masos Torah, same words. You would never do such a thing, lahamis tzaddik im harasha, to kill a tzaddik along with a rasha. V'haya tzaddik harasha, one fate will be for both of them. Chalilu lach, far be it from you, shofet kol haaretz lo yasem mishpat, the judge of the whole world is not going to be just. Okay, you see this? What's the difference? What's the difference? In the first case, Hashem is saying, I am going to show Avraham how I run this world and that I'm absolutely just. So first the curtain's down in a sense, and he says, I'm going to destroy Sodom. And then Avram says, that's unjust. There's tzaddikim here too. Eventually, through the back and forth, essentially what happens is the curtain gets raised and Avram sees there's nobody just here. And everything Hashem, there's no tzaddikim here. And what Hashem is doing is just. Okay? So Avraham trusts, this is one of the nisyonos of Avraham, and he understands from this as a rare occasion where Hashem picks up the curtain for Avraham to see exactly what's happening. Remember that? We once said, and here's just another way of speaking about it, whenever the Torah says Vayered, the only time you see a person allowed to question what Hashem is doing, in other words, to look behind the curtain, is if the Torah says Vayered. Hashem will come down, which we explained at the time from my grandfather, another way that Hashem will come down into our lower consciousness so that we can grasp His ways. So He did that a very few times. Once with Avram, says, I'm going to go down and see what's going on in Sodom. That's why Avram said, okay, so let me understand it. And Hashem did. He said to Moshe, I'm going to come down and save the Jewish people from Mitzrayim. He said that by the sneh. So Moshe then, when things didn't go quickly and Paro made the work harder, Moshe said, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. Hashem said, now you're going to see. And he lifted the curtain with the 10 makos, basically. Okay? But unless it says Vayered, we don't get, in Gullus, right? We don't get to see behind the curtain. Now here is the classic example of how we react because we can't see behind the curtain. And don't forget, the reason they don't recognize Yosef, who dropped that curtain? Who is partially responsible for dropping that curtain between the front of the stage and the back of the stage? Of course, the Gullus is built into the system. The Hester Punim phase of history has to happen. But it all depends how we relate to it. We could say, okay, Hashem, we know you're going into Hester, but you're still there. Okay, and we're not going to start acting as if you're not. Or we can say, oh, we don't see Hashem anymore, he's gone. And therefore, I got to do whatever I got to do. The brothers here, okay, Masa of a Simon Labanim, everything that happens, the reason they can't see Yosef, and there's such a curtain, and now they're blaming Yosef and saying, you're the judge, you're the king of the whole empire, and you're not going to be just? And Yosef said, oh, I am just, I am not going to do. So he said, I would never punish the many for the few. So they said, no, but now you're causing, he said, I will only punish one. He said, but even punishing that one essentially is condemning all the other innocent people to be punished. And we don't deserve it. Okay, yeah, question.
This last few weeks we may have said this, but I know Chazal says the Yosef recognized his brothers and they didn't recognize him. So Chazal say that they didn't see the good in Yosef, whereas Yosef saw the good in them.
We're going to get to that.
So can you apply that to
Yes,
Hester Punim also?
absolutely. We're going to get to that in a second, a little bit. Now, I want you to compare number 3, Rachel.
I see here that Yehuda is confessing.
Wait, soon. Yes, we're going to get to that. First, we're going to explain you're all on the right track. He's going to, and that's what ultimately lifts the veil. Okay, but we'll see. Look at number 3. Compare Abraham's speech, okay, and Yosef, Yehuda's speech. Now, first of all, the style of both of them is servant to master. Okay? The goal of both of them is to spare the condemned. The guilt, okay, spare the condemned. In this case, Binyamin, or the Rishayim of Sodom. Okay? The Rishayim, to spare the Rishayim on account of the tzaddikim. Spare the innocent. Look at the next one, the argument. Spare the guilty for the sake of the innocent. Spare Binyamin for the sake of Yaakov, for the sake of the other brothers. Spare the guilty in Sodom for the sake of the tzaddikim. That's the argument. Spare, it's a mercy argument. Spare the guilty for the sake of the innocent. In other words, yes, it could be a case where somebody's guilty, but so many other people will suffer and that's not fair to spare the guilty. Which in the end, what you're saying is, don't really do justice. Your mercy will, in a sense, exonerate the guilty, because it's really taking all the innocent people into consideration. So it's not absolute justice, okay? Now, it essentially is also, as we said before, built into this is the other aspect, which is tzaddik v'ralo. How could all these innocent people suffer unjustly? Okay, because you're trying to do justice to an individual. So this is the question, okay? And the brothers are looking, as we said, the main thing here is Yehuda in the beginning of the speech, or really till the very end, like Rachel just identified, is saying that Yosef is at fault. Yosef is not handling this correctly. Yosef is not compassionate. Yosef is creating a situation that's just so unfair and going to cause so much pain. Now, really what happens, okay? What's the real story? The real story is, okay, that their father Yaakov, who they care so much about now, Baruch, thank God, okay, was grooming Yosef to be a leader, because there was built into the system from the earliest times was a phase where, as we talked about many, many, many times, where the Jewish people would have to become adults and take everything that Hashem taught them and that was integrated into them and start operating as individuals, living and promoting and establishing these truths in the world. It was time to become an adult, okay? And Yaakov was grooming Yosef to be the leader of the Jewish people in the Golus, okay? However, because this is all about our long Golus and the period of Hester Panim and the curtain going down, okay? You already see that when you get to the story of Yaakov and Yosef, first of all, there's no nevuah. Yosef is not a navi, okay? Yaakov is up until this point, but then with Yosef he loses nevuah. There's no nevuah. So it all comes down to now chachma. What do we? It's all about us. Now remember, here's where things get really complicated in real life. Binyamin, the whole concept of Binyamin and the Truffim is don't try to evaluate the situation and secure, put everything in place and know your future and be prepared because a human being cannot live, should not be a fatalist. And number two, it's not how the world works. It's not like we assess the situation, then react to it, and then we're secure and everything's going to play out exactly as we planned it to play out. That's not how it goes because, again, we are part of a much bigger story, and Hashem is using people and using situations. For example, thank you, Haman. We needed a gallows. Okay? Hashem is using everybody's choices for His purposes, for the destiny to unfold. So on the one hand, you have the message of the Truffim, don't try to think you can secure everything your way. Don't be a fatalist. Yosef says to Paro, oh, there's going to be 7 bad years? I'll give you a glimpse behind the curtain. That's coming from God. Do what you want with it. Take action. But now what happens here is there's no more nevuah. You don't see behind the curtain. So Yehuda takes action. He says, hey, wait a second. What's going on here? Our father is favoring Yosef. We don't understand why he's doing that. That doesn't make any sense. We don't like that. Yosef, it could be a threat to me and my leadership of the family. It's a threat to the whole families, the continuation of the Jewish tradition from, Avram had 2 sons and one wasn't fit. Yitzchak had 2 sons and one wasn't fit. And here, there's a lot of sons here and he's making the wrong choice about which one is fit. Yosef isn't the fit one. Let's interfere with, sabotage my father's plans because he doesn't get it. He's promoting the wrong person. Okay, let me get involved because that's the way I see it. Now, on the one hand, Yehuda's taking initiative. He's not being a fatalist. He's not letting things play out. He's getting involved and he's interfering. What's his crime? What, therefore, did he do wrong? What did he do wrong?
That's why Tamar comes into the
That's for sure. That's part of the tzaddikim. But what is he doing wrong? Why doesn't he? He's making his own judgment and taking matters into his own hand, which is exactly what you're supposed to do in the era where you don't see behind the scenes and it's chachma and Torah Shebal Peh. It's up to us and it's like the Maccabees and you do what you got to do to defend Judaism. What's the missing link here?
He doesn't honor his father.
Exactly. He doesn't take his father, he doesn't trust his father, he doesn't honor his father, and he doesn't think what the father's doing. He doesn't let himself accept that what the father's doing makes sense, okay, and has a plan. By the way, Yosef, lahavdil, in Egypt, is about to sin with the wife of Potiphar, and what stops him? My father. My father would never do this. My father wouldn't like this. My father would tell me not to. Okay, that's the difference, all right? Yosef is the person, there's always a Yosef. My grandfather always stressed this. There's always in every generation a Yosef. Yosef is the person in the generation who sees behind the curtain. There's no curtain. They see everything as part of Hashem. They don't sin. They don't get sidetracked. They stay true. There's always a tzaddik or a few tzaddikim in every generation that don't lose sight and then do tshuva and then regain it like Yehuda, but they never lose perspective. So that's Yosef compared to Yehuda. Yehuda interferes and tries to sabotage the whole story because he doesn't respect the Masorah. When you go into Torah Shebal Peh, when you go into the Gullus, when you go into the era of Chachma, where we have to, like the Maccabees, stand up for what we believe in, you can never turn your back and discredit. Remember we talked about the Greeks? What happened, the 24 Sifrei Tanakh, all the lessons we already learned in the time of Gilui Shechina. Remember the Greeks said, the curtain dropped, all that stuff that we used to explain why things were happening here, that was all nonsense. We're turning our back on it. You Jews, you should do the same thing. All that was nonsense, discredit it. Now it's all about us, okay? So
in the real world, the kings come from Yehuda.
No. Kings from Leah. Kings who rule in Eretz Yisrael. Kings in the time of the Gilui Shechina, before the Gullus and after the Gullus. But during the Gullus, it's only Bnei Rachel. Yehuda, Yosef, and Mordechai, and Esther, and we once went through this, and Shaul and David, and there's a great alliance between Rachel and Leah that happened here between Yehuda and Binyamin. But no, remember Leah, Rachel, Leah? Remember?
Yeah.
The kings from Leah, or from Yehuda, are the first Kufa in Israel and the final Kufa. And in between is Rachel. You know what I'm talking about. Chavi, even take it. And I want to run through this quickly, and then I hope we could take questions, okay? So number 4, okay? This whole thing the whole thing happened because he took matters into his own hands, but disregarding what was behind him, disregarding Yaakov, disregarding not trusting Yaakov to understand what the Gullus needed. Turning his back on the third of the Avos, the Mesorah. Yaakov was a Navi up until this point. He had Nevuah. Okay? Discrediting it and just evaluating the facts as I see them in front of the curtain, and they don't work for me. Does this make sense so far? Okay. Blinding to what's behind the curtain. Next, Yehuda and collateral. You brought this up. Tamar, the story of Tamar comes in. This is a defining moment where he realizes when she says, whoever this belongs to, that's the father. Okay. When he gave her those items, look in the psukim, he gave it to her as what's called a ravon, collateral. Look at the 2 psukim, 17 and 18. I'm going to send you a Gedi Izim, and it's going to be a ravon. She said, no, give me something, an a ravon, until you send that. And he says, Vayom, and he said to her, Maha a ravon, what should I give you? And she says, give me your seal, your belt, and your staff. Then what happens? She says, this is who it belongs to. And suddenly the curtain goes up for him in his life, and he says, oh my goodness, I now I understand what's happening here. Okay, you all know the story of Tamar and Yehuda. If not, look it up. He doesn't, okay? He says, whoa, I didn't know what was behind the curtains here. And it's his own life story, and he didn't know it. He was the one who was the cause of her pregnancy. He didn't even have a clue. She had a clue. He was ready to go. By the way, my grandfather said not burn, because that wasn't the punishment for Zanus. It was branding, a mark that this person it was a burned on mark. Like, remember the scarlet letter type of thing? I don't know if it was on the forehead or what it was, but some mark, this person is not loyal. Okay? But he's about to do that, and he's like, and then the curtain goes up. Okay, so Yehuda already had a defining moment that was transformative for him, and he says, how often do we not really know what's going on here? Okay? So that's already setting him up for this stage with Yosef. Now, when it gets to Binyamin, okay, he's already getting there. When he says to his father, with Tamar, he says, I'm going to give you collateral. Here, take my staff. But when it gets to taking Binyamin down, he says, Anochi ervenu, I am collateral. Me personally, I'm collateral. My life in exchange for Binyamin's life. What's happening here? He says, I don't know what is going on with this king, and it doesn't make any sense to me. And he doesn't figure it out right away. But he says, one thing I know is that when, if my father has a preference, okay, I'm going to respect that. Unlike before with Yosef, when I thought I knew better and I didn't realize how much suffering I will bring my father into, A, by the loss of his beloved son Yosef, and B, now I have to be a shaliach to, God forbid, another loss for my father. And he realizes that he could that by interfering with the first time with the father's plans and causing so much pain and suffering to the father and to the family, okay, he didn't take that into account. By the way, when Yaakov suffered so much and was inconsolable, the family banished Yehuda. That's how he ended up in the whole Tamar situation. They were furious at him. If you would have known how the trouble this would have gotten us all into, we wouldn't have done this.
Not if you would have known, you should have.
You should have known. So Yehuda's already cautious to start constantly interfering, sabotaging, taking. So here he says, you know what, one thing I know for sure, my father loves Binyamin. The fact that he prefers the children of Rachel doesn't make sense to me, and I don't appreciate it, and I think it's wrong, and I don't agree. Well, that's irrelevant, because that's my interpretation. but I'm willing to now allow someone else's interpretation, someone else's preferences to guide me. It's going to be the way my Father wants it. He took himself out of the way. This is one of the biggest obstacles most of us have, is ourselves. We take ourselves out of the way and says, I'm not passing judgment. He says, I'm not going to pass judgment on what's going on here. All I know is my Father prefers Rachel's children, and I'm not going to be the one who's going to cause him more suffering. I will give my life for it. That's what it is. That's a fact, and that's it. Okay? So he pledges himself. And then he says to Yosef, Ki avdecha arav es hanar me'im avi. Your servant has pledged himself in place of this boy. Okay? Now, this is the moment, this is where the parsha ends, the parak ends. And the next parak starts that Yosef could no longer restrain himself. Okay? It's not the first time Yosef is affected by the sincerity, by the good, by the moral level of the brothers. He has cried once before, but he didn't reveal himself. Now he reveals himself. Let's compare. He cried already the first time. What was that about? So if you look, okay. You see, we said in 6, Yosef is waiting for Yehuda to shift from demanding justice to taking responsibility. And you see, Yehuda's on the way. He's getting to that point. But look at earlier what happens when Yosef cries. When Yosef throws them in jail, remember? The first time, he says, you're all spies, and he throws them in jail. And then he has this all perfectly choreographed. And he comes 3 days later, and he says to them, you know what? He says, oh, wait, she's missing a pasuk here. She's missing a pasuk. Do this, hold on, the pasuk is, okay, here, turn to the next page. You see where it says 18? Sorry, okay. You see where it says 18? Maybe, okay, 18 and 19. These are the same. This is, you see here on where it says 7, 21, 22, 23, 24. That's where Yosef cried. But the introduction to that is 18, 19, and 20. So go to the next page. So he throws them all in jail. Vayomer Aleim Yosef, Bayom HaShlishi. He says to them on the third day, Zos asu v'chiyu. This is what you should do to live. Es Elokim ani yarei. I fear God. End of pasuk. What should they do? Look at the next pasuk. Im keinim atem achichem. If you are honest men, keinim there means like honest merchants. Okay. Echad yeyaser bebeis mishmarchem. One of you is going to be, put in jail here. Vatem lechu heviu shever ravon batechem. You all going to go home. Okay. Alrighty, you see that? That's pasuk 19. Then go back here. So he says, this is what you should do and live, because I fear God. You know what? Since you're all honest men, I changed my mind. You can all go home. I'm going to keep one person here. And he happens to keep Shimon. Remember that? Who's the one who actually physically threw him in the pit. And then, of course, the Medrash tells us that he tells Menashe and Ephraim, tie him up. And Shimon was very powerful. Remember the whole muscle that he had one hair on his chest that you could break a rock over. And then it says in the Medrash that Menashe and Ephraim are going, whoa. They're tying him up. And the brothers are saying, ooh, this is strength from our father's house. This is strange. Who can overcome Shimon? So there's like a zillion hints, right? But the curtain's down and they can't see it because they can't imagine that there's anything more to the story than what they think. So what happens though? Vayomer, all of a sudden, Vayomru ishal achiv, just when Yosef says, I'm going to send you all home. So they say, Aval Hashemim anachnu al achenu. You know what? We're guilty about our brother. Why? We saw how much he was miserable, how much he was suffering, and he was begging us, and we didn't listen to him. That's why this is happening. And then Reuven starts blaming them. Didn't I tell you to don't sin against the boy, and you didn't listen to me, and now look what's happening. This is because of his blood. And they didn't know Yosef was listening. And look at pasuk 24. Vayisov me'aleim vayev. He turns away from them and he cries. But he doesn't reveal himself. What's the difference here? First of all, this is what you should do to live. I fear God. I'm going to send you all home. I'm going to leave one here. And then the brothers say, oh, you know what? We're guilty. Our brother was suffering and we had no compassion. What's going on here? He's setting an example to them. He's saying, I'm seeing that you're all suffering and I'm reacting to that with compassion, and I'm saying, you know what, maybe I'm wrong. I shouldn't keep you all in jail. I'm going to send you all home. Maybe I did the wrong thing. Maybe I was too harsh. I'm changing my mind. You could all go home except for one. He's saying, that's what you guys have to do. And they did it. They said, you know what, maybe we were wrong. We're too too harsh. We don't listen to Yosef. That's my grandfather explains, or Schwab explains. He said, this is what you have to do. You have to ask yourself if you did the wrong thing, if you're too harsh. But I'm asking myself that question because I fear God. What about you? So then they ask themselves, they claim they're God-fearing people, saying, do what I'm doing. This is what you should do to live, what I'm about to do. Rethink my position and back off and say, I'm sorry that it was too cruel. So they did that. But they just regretted that they weren't compassionate. So he cried over that accomplishment, but that wasn't the whole story. It's not that they were just not compassionate to Yosef. That wasn't the big picture. The big picture is that they interfered and sabotaged Yaakov's plans, causing him untold suffering because they thought that they knew what was going on better than him. That's what happened, and they haven't gotten to that point yet. But now, with this speech from Yehuda, Yehuda has arrived at that position. So far, so good? Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And when Yosef sees that he has finally said, I am not the person that's going to overthink my father anymore. Okay. That's when Yosef finally breaks down. And by the way, Yosef, if you look in 18:19 again, Yosef makes many mentions, okay, of his fear of Hashem. He's constantly feeding them and speaking to them about how much he fears Hashem. Okay? If you look, for example, in Pasuk 43, it's on the, I don't know, the pages aren't numbered, but it says, where it says section 8, and if you look down to the bottom where it says 43:23, this is when they come back with the money that he had put in their sacks. They come back the second time with Binyamin, and he says to them, Vayomer shalom lachem, al tiro, oh, peace be upon you, don't be afraid. Elokechem velokei avichem nasan. It's God who gave you the money back. He's always, and then he sees Binyamin, by the way, and he says about Binyamin, Elokim yechancha b'ni, God should give you chen, my son. He's always adding Elokim into the picture. He's saying, I am a God-fearing man. And now, this is what you brought up on, Bobby. Yes, that's right. He does it to Mrs. Potiphar too. Correct. And Bobby brought up a very important thing. The Medrash, I didn't bring the source here. The Medrash says that although Yosef is acting, showing them that he's acting nobly, and we all know that he has they're not in danger with Yosef, and he's just trying to get them to a point where they get to where they realize that they are blind to what is really going on. He really is a king. They really are bowing to him. He's really there, for them, and that he was not. Yaakov was not doing the wrong thing, and he was not sabotaging the future of the family. He was securing the future of the family, and Yosef was a leader and does have their best interest in mind, and they have no idea. And Yosef's getting them to a point where they're going to be able to realize this. And the only way they realize this is when they stop seeing things the way they think things are, and they start saying, maybe there's more to the story, and let's get ourselves out of the way. By the way, this is a very important point. I think I put this in here, actually. Also from my grandfather. Yes, go back to the page before it, section 8. Look at this. In the beginning, Yosef, Pasuk 4, chapter 42, 6 through 9. Yosef was the ruler of the whole land, okay? And the brothers come down, and they bow to him. Now, Vayar Yosef as Achev Vayakirim. He sees them, he recognizes them, and then he acts very, very cold to them. He vayisnaker aleihem. He treats them rough. He starts harassing them. And then it says again, Vayakar Yosef as Achev vehem lo hikiru. Then he recognized them, but they did not recognize him. And then the next pasuk says he remembered the dreams that he dreamed for them. What's going on here? 4 times recognize. First he recognizes them. Oh, look what's happening. My dreams are coming true. And he's very tough on them. Like, who do you think you were? You tried to get in the way. What's happening here is Yosef also doesn't see behind the curtain yet. He doesn't even know why he's a king. He doesn't know why he is a king. And he's, in the beginning, he thought, I'm going to be a king, and everybody's going to bow down to me. And that's just what it's going to be, and I'm going to be a leader. And he didn't no idea why, fully understand why. Then everything, this is that pasuk number 8. He recognizes them, but they don't recognize him, which means he understands why he's a king. But they still do not see anything. And you know why he's a king? This is from my grandfather. Vayizkar Yosef es chalomos. You remember the dreams? Asher chalam lahem. He dreamed those dreams of rulership for them, not for him, to take care of them. He's a king to protect them. It's all about them. It's all about making sure that Am Yisrael will be protected and provided for in Gullus. His whole rise to greatness, his whole story is actually for them. And he didn't know it till this point. So Yosef represents going through your life, but always looking to understand, looking behind the curtain. There's got to be a reason for this, and it has to do with Hashem and the big plan, and therefore I must always hold myself to the highest standard with Eshes Potiphar, because I'm part of a big picture here, whether I don't understand it. Yosef could have been excused for saying, they kicked me out, nobody came to look for me, my father never reached out to me, you know what, I'm giving it up, I don't have a future with the Jewish people, I'm going to be an Egyptian, I'm going to be powerful, end of story. But he said, I'm part of a story which I don't fully understand, and I'm going to stay true to who I am in the harshest of times, and when I could slip and fall, I'm going to remember that I am the son of Yaakov. Even though Yaakov isn't saying, or my family has somehow disowned me, but I am not disowning them. I am still the son of Yaakov. I am still Yosef, who always calls, mentions Hashem. That's who I am, and we'll see what happens with that. And then the reason he understood that he dreamed those dreams for them is because Yosef's mindset was always looking for behind the curtain. And here for Yosef, the curtain went up. Now he understood the whole thing. But he was always looking for that moment when the curtain will go up and he'll understand. The brothers, though, represent Am Yisrael. Especially Yehuda, who represents the Bal Tshuva, the people who make a mistake and then fix it. Okay? That's also David, make a mistake and then fix it. But Yosef doesn't make the mistake. He's always looking behind the curtain, and the second it starts to go, that curtain starts to raise, he sees it. That, by the way, we're going to, at the end, that's schar. Schar is when the curtain goes up and you say, this all makes sense. But onesh is when the curtain goes up and you didn't know that there was anything behind the curtain, and there's a horror, an enlightenment, but a horror, like everything I did, I was trying to sabotage, and God was just recalibrating as I was trying to sabotage. I never sabotaged a thing. It all just went exactly the way it was supposed to go anyway. All my efforts were just, in vain, basically. But the curtain goes up and a person sees how blind they were. So here, Yosef figures it out too. Rachel, quickly, what were you going to say?
He gets to know himself.
Correct.
Through them.
Correct.
And they talk about
Correct.
their experience.
Correct. He figured, but he gets to know himself before the whole thing. He's the first. He's very alert for it. The second he
They are in the picture.
Yeah, as soon as they bow down and he realizes there's a famine, and he understands his role. Now, here, the episode, you could read 9 yourself, okay? You could read it yourself. I want to just end with this idea, and then, Javi, I want to take your question, because you're the only one not calling out in the middle. We learned Koheles Wednesday mornings by Rivka Fuchs's house. Perek Beis in Koheles. He says the following. He has a catchphrase in Koheles. If everything he says is Hevel, 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 he always says Tachat Hashemesh, under the sun. It's always Hevel, fleeting, futile. He always says Ra'ot Ruach, which means it breaks your spirit. And then he says Tachas Hashemesh. Tachas Hashemesh in our mashal is in front of the curtain. Okay, if you are operating in front of the curtain with no consideration that there might be a backstory, you are going to work so hard to get all your ducks in a row and set things up and predict and arrange everything and promote your agenda, and you're not going to understand at all when you're frustrated and things go opposite the way you want them to go, and everything's confusing. It doesn't make any sense, and things are happening that don't have normal explanations, and it's coming at you from left field. You're not going to know what's going on, and you're going to tear your hair out, and you're going it's gonna break your spirit, and you're gonna curse the day you lived, and you're gonna curse life, and you're gonna curse your efforts, because it's like you can't get control, and you can't secure your own agenda. And he says that's what happens when you operate tachat hashemesh, in front of the curtain. The Jewish people operate in front of the curtain. It's the era of Torah Shebaal Peh. It's coming from us. The light's in us, remember? And we have to do what we have to do, and we have to take every little variable into consideration. But we know that in the end, we do our best, and Hashem takes our efforts and uses them to continue the story, to get the story to its final, inevitable destiny. Even Rishayim, Hashem, they'll work so hard in front of the curtain, Hashem will say, thank you. Like we said, I needed those gallows. Good job. And we'll use them to get the story to the end. But there's something so relevant for today. Look what Koheles says. I hated life. I was distressed by all my effort that I put in under the sun. Everything is futile, and it's just, pursuit of the wind is a bad translation. Ra'os ruach means it breaks your spirit. Okay, that's Rashi. He says, V'sanesias kol amali, I hated all, I don't like this translation at all. I hated all my effort that I put in under the sun. Now look what he says here, and think what's going on in history now, in America now, in politics now, okay? I hated all my effort that I put in under the sun, in front of the curtain. You know why? Because I'm going to work so hard to do things my way, and then I'm going to leave it to someone, okay, who's going to come after me. And who knows if he's going to be a chacham or a fool, and he's going to take control of everything I worked for, and all my intelligence, and how wise I was under the sun, and so it was all futile. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Okay, we're talking of, we had a president who was not the friend. More than that, by the way, the people say I look like Nikki Haley. Okay, I'm officially getting a Nikki Haley wig. And remember that? She's today. Remember what she said? We're taking names. Now, they're making it into, obviously, this is America. How dare you take our money and vote against us? It's about America. But let them make it about America. It's really about Hashem's making it about Eretz Yisrael. He said, and by the way, since Trump made that pronouncement, and he should be thanked publicly for what he did for Yerushalayim and for Rubashkin, thanked publicly, and especially everything else that he wanted, Obamacare in the toilet, the budget in the toilet, because you work so hard to get in the way of destiny. Okay, there is a destiny for Am Yisrael. I don't know about everything else, but Am Yisrael has a destiny, and Yerushalayim is part of that destiny. And you try so hard to make it harder and sabotage the Jewish people and their ability to secure a life for themselves, a peaceful, healthy, productive life in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, you make it hard, and you try, so you outsmart everybody, and somebody comes after you. And their agenda is to repudiate every single thing you did. And they're wildly successful. And the stock market is booming, and ISIS is dead, and Rubashkin is out. So I hope he's pulling his hair out, with whatever hair is left. But the point is, this Koheles is saying, you could work in front of the curtain. But there's a big backstory. And if you don't figure that out, you are going to be very frustrated, because that's the way it goes. So the smart people figure it out. And they say, what am I supposed to do now? On the one hand, we are not fatalists. On the other hand, I can't control what's going to happen with even Chachamim, even tzaddikim, even Shlomo HaMelech writing this says, I couldn't control what happened after me. I built a huge empire. And you know what happened? My son couldn't hold on to it. Yeravam came, rebelled, and took 10 tribes away, and now my own son was left with nothing. That was me. I couldn't control what people after me did with what I built in this world. So what do you do? So he says, what you do is he says this later in the parak. He says, this is the only thing you could do. Invest at the moment, in this day of your life, doing what is right in the eyes of Hashem. And then enjoy it. Eat, he says, and drink, and enjoy your investment in what is tov in Hashem's eyes in this world. And know that you're part of a very big story. Basically, this part he doesn't say, because there's a whole backstage, and what you do is going to be used to the benefit of the whole story, for the purpose of the whole story unfolding. Don't worry about how it's going to be used, because that you're not in control of. So you make it easy for Hashem to use your investment in this world for a benefit for Am Yisrael. Don't make it, Hashem's going to use it anyway. But be like Mordechai said to Esther, there's going to be a salvation. Just you play a role in it. That's your opportunity. So Shlomo Melech says, go, you're in front of the curtain, do what you got to do. And then all the rest ultimately is Hashem's hands. What we have with Yosef, and this we're going to end, is... this is what happens. Ruvain says, and this is also a tremendous lesson for today. Ruvain says, I don't understand what my father's doing. I still don't. He still didn't. But I know that I don't want to cause my father any more pain. I want the family to be united as possible. I don't want one of the Jewish people who I personally don't think is so important, and somehow my father does, to be jeopardized. I don't want the family to be jeopardized. I want this family to be as united as possible. Okay? Achdus, that's really what it is. And he says, and therefore, whatever my personal agenda was, it doesn't exist anymore. I care about the well-being of Am Yisrael, not my personal agenda. And for today, that's the opposite of Sinas Chinam. The tikkun on Sinas Chinam is, I don't agree with this group and that group and this group and that group, okay? I don't agree with all kinds of stuff, and however, the well-being of Am Yisrael, and that Hashem should have a nation, and we should all be responsible and care about the well-being of each other, that's the only thing we sacrifice for. That's the only thing we're willing to give ourselves for. That's the end of Sinas Chinam. We sacrifice so that our Hashem should have an Am that's all together. The nation should be united. That, and when Yosef hears that what we're not pre-thinking or overthinking or outthinking anything, we're just saying the agenda of Am Yisrael now is to keep the family together as much as possible. End of story. If that's what we work on in front of the curtain, that will lift the curtain.
Beautiful.
Yeah. 1 second. Javi, please.